Thanks for tuning in. I'm Andy Zopp, and this is Chicago Newsroom 2.0. On the roundtable this week, Morgan Malone, Ashley Munson, and Robin Robinson join me to discuss the seemingly never-ending budget crisis at City Hall and a new perspective at the Cook County State's Attorney's Office as Eileen O'Neill Burke is sworn in and begins her term as State's Attorney. I'll also sit one-on-one with the outgoing and incoming CEOs of the Japanese American Service Committee, Michael Takada and Courtney Sakai. We'll get started on the other side of a short break. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Bianca Cotton. Join me Mondays at 7 p.m. for Behind the Confident Smile as I sit in conversation with incredible, dynamic, and complex Chicagoans who peel back the layers, living lessons, the joy, and the pain behind their confident smiles. You can watch on CanTV 19, cantv.org, and CanTV Plus app.
Fresh reporting from the Chicago Tribune announced that the City Council's Finance Committee on Tuesday narrowly approved Mayor Brandon Johnson's proposed $68.5 million property tax hike and a slew of other tax and fee hikes ahead of an expected full budget vote later this week. The final vote on the revenue package was 14-12, with only scant comments from aldermen opposed. It's one step toward the spending plan heading to the entire council for an up or down vote, which could happen as soon as Friday. Among the no votes, Alderman Anthony Beal, 9th Ward, Alderman Nicole Lee, 11th Ward, Alderman Marty Quinn, 13th Ward, Alderman Raymond Lopez, 15th Ward, Alderman Matt O'Shea, 19th Ward, Alderman Felix Cardona, 31st Ward, Alderman Scott Wagaspack, 32nd Ward, Alderman Bill Conway, 34th Ward, Alderman Gilbert Villegas, 36th Ward, Alderman Brendan Riley, 42nd Ward, Alderman Matt Martin, 47th Ward, and Alderman Deborah Silverstein, 50th Ward. To help us unpack all this news, I'm joined by the Roundtable regulars, the Executive Director of City Bureau, Morgan Malone, the head of the wildly popular Munson Tonight, Ashley Munson, and Robin Robinson, whose new show, In Other News, premieres on Thursday, January 9th, right after Chicago Newsroom 2.0. Ladies, welcome back to the Roundtable. So let's jump right in. So we're a little closer to budget, right? So it might happen in 2024, we think?
If you count the razor's edge, I guess we are closer. There was a close vote coming out of the Finance Committee, and then it's got to go to the full council. And there are some things in there that I think, some increased taxes and fees that I think might give people some pause.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about, I'm personally a little freaked out about the parking. Because parking's already outrageous, right? And they're going to raise it, what?
To 23.5% from 20.
Right.
They initially wanted to do it 25%. Now, this brought the parking tax to my attention, because I just thought parking garages were just sky high.
Yeah.
But if a quarter of what you pay is taxes, you're not going to want to park in a parking garage. You should just take an Uber, although you can't do that either because they raised the taxes on that as well.
They raised the taxes on the Uber. And then there was a personal property tax. What's that? Do anybody know?
You lease a car. Personal property leasing. So if you lease a car, if you lease cloud computing or software, then there's an increase in that. And that's just about everybody in terms of the cloud computing. It's certainly businesses.
And the back tax too. What is it? It will be raised to 10 cent?
Oh, right.
For the bags.
Yep, the grocery, right? For
yeah.
those of you who don't like paying the 7 cents, now it's going to be 10. So
pay the 99 cents, get the reusable bag.
Exactly.
But it's not like you remember to bring those bags.
I never remember the bags.
You will
now.
You gotta remember
okay,
it
I don't know what you're going to put in your little garbage cans, but
because that adds up, right? And then streaming services, right?
Yeah.
So your Netflix and for all y'all who got rid of cable and thought you were doing something.
Oh, I'm sick
we've
of that.
already figured out that was a trick.
I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I'm already paying as much as I was for cable.
Services. It's a lot.
But things, that people actually, use every day and maybe can't always afford, it makes us wonder what was so bad about the $300 million tax hike, which just sounds really bad. They've gotten it down to $68 million. Mm-hmm. Anybody know what that means for the average homeowner?
I don't, but
They'll
it
tell us
can't. I
soon.
mean, think about the number of properties in Chicago, and you spread that property tax across all those properties, which is kind of how I thought about the $300 million.
Yes.
Which is a lot. But when you spread that over a bunch of properties, the commercial properties will pay more, but individual homeowners, I can't imagine it was going to be more than $10, $20 a
But
year,
that's
right?
also on top of an assessment that we just had as a
Right.
newly owned, that owns my home, right? Like it's 3 years, we're assessed, we got more taxes and things, plus on top of a potential property tax. Like it affects us everyday citizens, like you said.
You are absolutely right. I totally agree with that. I just think over time it would have been less painful, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what
I
I
can see
mean?
that.
I think, and I think. And I worry a little bit about, people, we already have challenges with people coming into downtown, right?
Right.
And now it's going to cost you a lot more, whether you Uber, whether you park, there's a surge, you're going to pay more to come downtown. So that puts pressure on downtown activities and economic activity. Plus, it just feels like, the cost of everything's already going up, right? So now you want to come downtown and go out to dinner, that you're already paying more. So it just feels like, and yes, they had to fill the hole. I get it, but it feels like they shifted it in a way that's going to be really painful.
Every election season, people say, I would be willing to pay more taxes if I knew what the money was going towards.
Yeah.
People never feel like they're actually getting the services they're paying for. And people also don't realize how lean government is running. And so you run into this situation where we're paying more, we're not seeing the fruits of the labor in our everyday life, in our household, and all we see is just more and more costs. And this inflation and all the other things that they're like, the federal impact and all these other costs, it just starts to add up. Where is it like, is Chicago livable?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. When you say they understand how lean government is operating, that's because they're being told every day that it's just misuse and inflated and a bunch of family members on the payroll. But in fact, it really is pretty lean.
Right.
And there are some things that were promised that people were looking forward to. The snow removal, I thought was a great idea. Okay, so now we're not going to spend the money on the snow removal.
I'm okay with not
project.
doing the snow removal.
Are you?
Yeah, I am.
It just means you're going to know how well off the neighborhood you are in is, because in some neighborhoods, the sidewalk's going to be clean. In others, maybe there's a lot of seniors, maybe there's a lot of people with mental health problems. The sidewalk's going to be horrible, nasty, and dangerous. And it doesn't cost that much. It's a quality of life issue. If you have mobility issues, we can't count up the cost of the person that can't go to work or can't go do what they need to do because they're in a wheelchair or they can't get on the sidewalk.
That's fair. I just wanted to say though that the sidewalk labor is expensive. It's like, this is not like a small pilot project. This was a very expensive pilot project with a lot of other really important needs that were like basic needs that also weren't being met. So if I had to weigh the sidewalk project over a couple of other projects, I probably would have scrapped
the other
sidewalks.
thing, there's the other thing. I think you're both totally right. I mean, Robin's right. But how about pulling neighbors? Well, this is an opportunity to pull neighborhoods together, right? How about we pull people together? How about we encourage the young people in the neighborhood, pull a few little bucks together and give them a little bit of money to clear the sidewalks for their neighborhood. There's a way that you could turn that into something positive, because you're absolutely right. It does. When it's not done, it can be disabling and limiting. So
it's the social fabric for me. When I grew up, my dad shoveled our sidewalk and all the other neighbors too. Especially if you were older. He just did it. He delivered their groceries for them. He shoveled everybody else's sidewalk because we had the social fabric, because we had the community and the trust. And so I do want to see more investment in our ability to do that.
I think if you look at, I don't disagree. I think we're in a different time where you need resources and people to take the time to do that. And then if you take a step back and look at Chicago as a whole, right, we have 13% less police officers than we did in 2019. Half the money going to CPS, the students do not see, it goes to other resources. So I bring those 2 points up to say, like, looking at a whole, we have some things that we have to invest in, and people don't have the time because they're trying to work 2 jobs. Or I know we talk about the bag thing, but I remember talking about that when I worked in Springfield about passing that policy, right? Like, that really affected people. So I think we have so many issues that people can't take the time to focus on community. But I do agree holistically, like, it should be back to community, but I think it's so many issues that people are focused on that it prevents us to getting back to that, we on the block, we taking care of one another. And it depends on your neighborhood too.
And it has to be resourced. You can't just tell everybody get together and do this yourselves. People need you need some assistance in doing that because it hasn't been done.
Right.
So
it's an opportunity, I think, particularly for our organizations that are on the ground to think through how we do build community, particularly in a world where people are burdened, right? People are burdened about how many jobs they have, about getting their kids, about do they have money for food. So can we create community, because that also will lead to safety, right? Better safety, and that's not an answer, but I do, I think the challenge this budget and this conversation shows that this is all about where do you put the resources. He's also, I think, proposing to take out the guaranteed income program.
That's $500 a month for 5,000 people.
Which absolutely changed people's lives, and the studies show had a very strong impact on stabilizing communities and people. So that's another very tough call.
And 1 year of it is almost unfair because you can't really judge the outcome of it. And then talk about building community. Can we build some community in the city council? Because they're going to have to vote on this as a whole, and there's already complaints that they kind of did something different with that $68 million property tax hike by not voting on it separately. There's something called truth in taxation or something like that, where you're supposed to, they just kind of tucked it into the bill.
They rolled it into the whole property tax levy, so it's all one big giant number, and you don't know that that giant number is $68.5 million bigger than it was last year, right?
And it's a technical
unless you're paying
thing,
attention. I think Alderman Beal was pretty upset about it at the hearing. So I'm sure we'll hear about it again. Look, I think building budgets is tough. We're going to see this at the state level next year. You're going to have to make some tough calls. I think what I hope is that, one, next time we have a little more transparency, and two, we have more conversation early on, because I think when you're this close in, it feels like they're making choices because they have to, right? They got to be done in 2.5 weeks, right?
But I feel like this has probably been more transparent than previous mayors who never told us about the ideas they floated that were rejected. So we got to hear about how the $300 million got knocked down. Brandon Johnson argues that he is collaborative. I think what's happening with his opponents is they smell blood. They smell weakness. They have not towed the line as they might have with a Rahm Emanuel or some mayor that they somehow deferred to more. I feel like it's really disrespectful in some way. I don't think the mayor should be supposed to be strong council, weak mayor system, but we did kind of get to see how they make the donuts.
At City Bureau we say democracy is what you do. I can't imagine that we as taxpayers are paying everyone's salaries and they don't have to show up and legislate, and they don't have to show up and read the budget line by line, and they don't have to come up with solutions and propose them and actually work collaboratively. I'm not mad at the alderman putting in a little bit of elbow grease. That's what we pay you to do.
I think all elected should, especially if you look at a state level. If we that vote them into office drove down to Springfield for a legislative session, people will be baffled. Y'all are wasting my money arguing and doing circus things on the floor. And to city council, it's the same. Do some work, because we're all fighting for our families and our people. So you should do some work too. I agree.
I feel energized. I love seeing different aldermen say, well, why don't we try this? Why don't we try this? Because I've also, in my conversations with aldermen, seen them taking the leap to also learn new things about cloud computing and some of these other things, and really go down a rabbit hole of trying to come up with a solution and trying to make a proposal. And I just don't feel like we get to see enough of that.
Right.
So I'm feeling good about our democracy right now.
I agree, but I'm just wondering, why now all of a sudden? So I'm just, and it's messy, and that's okay, and we'll see. But it's not done.
No, we're not. We're definitely not done. So I think I absolutely agree with both of you as usual. We only have a few minutes left. But we have a new state's attorney. Who has a kind of different approach and perspective than the old state's attorney. So what do we think? Well,
it's interesting because during the primary race, which is the only one that apparently counted, this state's attorney was talking about restorative justice and being fair, whereas the candidate that they refer to as the machine candidate, i.e. the candidate that Kim Fox, outgoing state's attorney, was supporting, came a little bit more across as tough on crime. I think they're both trying to appeal to those that might not want them. Right. So we won't know until it happens that she starts to legislate. But she has already said that we're going back to the $300 limit on shoplifting being a felony. So a lot of what Kim Foxx did was to not try to wrest our way into safety, right? That, the whole no cash bail, that people said we were going to all go to hell in a handbasket, and nothing changed.
Right.
Yeah.
So we also brought down the population of the Cook County Jail, which has been 10,000 for as long as I've been here almost. Will that go back up? Or should we just wait and see that maybe her I wouldn't say her bark is bigger than her bite, but maybe what she said in the campaign, that Eileen Burke will actually
Right.
Be more restorative than we expect.
Absolutely agree. I think we ought to give her a chance. I think the good thing is she brings a lot of experience to the table, and I think her focus at her hearing was on violent offenders, which is I think where it should be, not on people who steal $300 worth of stuff out of the store. So I think we'll have to wait and see, but I think she brings a lot to the table, and it'll be interesting, as has been this conversation as always. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it and bringing your thoughts, and we'll look forward to seeing what happens with the budget. Thank you. We'll be right back with this week's One-on-One with the Japanese American Service Committee's Michael Takada and Courtney Sakai. Stay with us.
I'm Sean Cattouse. Welcome to The Compassionate Competitor. Each episode will explore the mental, physical, and emotional toll, as well as the rewards that come along with high-performance athletics. Join the conversation on CAN TV Cable Channel 19, stream live on cantv.org, or on the new CAN TV Plus app. Elevated conversation and storytelling. Experience the power of community television.
Before World War II, there were around 400 Japanese American people in Chicago. After the war, that number dramatically increased to upwards of 30,000. The Japanese American Service Committee was founded in 1946 to assist Japanese Americans relocating to Chicago after being incarcerated during the war, providing access to employment, housing, and helping them adjust to their new community. Joining me to share more about the mission and work of the Japanese American Service Committee, or JASC, are its former CEO, Michael Takada, and its current new CEO, Courtney Sakai. Michael and Courtney, welcome. Happy to have you.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
So first, let's tell my viewers a little bit about GASC. Or do you call it JASC, or do you say GASC?
We go both different names,
Okay.
JSC or JASC.
Okay.
The organization is a social service agency and community center that, as you've said, has been around since 1946. We have been working with initially with the resettlement of these Japanese Americans who found their way to Chicago. My father and my grandparents on his side as part of that migration. And over the years, we've shifted into social services, taking care of the elders, and then gradually working into cultural and community programming as well. And the other component of the organization is our Legacy Center, where we maintain an archive and collection of the materials that tell that story of resettling in Chicago, finding new lives and community in this area.
Well, and it's a significant, as I noted, community. And so, Courtney, what attracted you to JASC?
Well, it's a legacy organization, and what really drives me is its founding and its history based on the incarceration camps and the experiences of Japanese Americans. It's a smart, talented nonprofit, and I have, when I was young, learned about the stories, but then never heard about them. And so JASC has a mission of helping to promote the Japanese American heritage and legacy based on our experiences and our insights.
Oh, wow. That's great. It's actually very similar. organization that was created to help African Americans who were coming to Chicago as part of their migration earlier in the 20th century. So, Michael, you're the former CEO of the organization. Tell us a little bit, how long were you CEO, and tell us what some of your things that you're most proud of during your time there.
Sure. I've had the honor and the privilege of serving 10 and a half years in this role. This is sort of the final chapter of my work career. I spent 30 plus years in corporate America, primarily in financial services, but found this opportunity 10 years ago, 10 and a half years ago. We've had some trying times over those 10 years.
Sure.
We went through several years of not getting budget funding during the Rauner administration. The budget was not passed. We are very heavily dependent on state funding as well as federal funding. Then, of course, there was the COVID situation. And through both of those time periods, we are very proud. The team worked really hard. We did not have to deny service to any of our clients. Wow. We did not have to lay off staff and personnel. And we were able to continue to pivot in creative ways to, getting through those rough moments. And so those are two that just really sort of stick out in my mind.
Very, very powerful. Absolutely. And Courtney, you're coming in. You've been on board about a little bit over a month now.
That's correct.
Right? So, what is your vision? What do you want? Where do you want to see the organization in several years under your leadership?
Well, starting with our new building, which we're ribbon cutting this week, we have always, this organization has dreamed about a community destination, which has now become a reality. I'm excited because we're in the most diverse ward of Chicago, and so that gives us the opportunity to take our programs, our social services offerings, our youth and our preschool programs, and expand them much broader. But to directly use our experiences and our history in resettling and share that with many who have similar experiences, whether they be first or second generations or move from a different place to these communities. And then the Japanese Americans, we have an interesting history of the resettlers where the government deliberately encouraged us not to assimilate, or to assimilate, and not to congregate and not to create distinct communities. And with that, over time and down past future generations, we've lost a lot of the understanding. We've lost a lot of the history, the experiences, and I'm included in that. So I think this is an opportunity to take the center and the work that we've done and really reach out and bring together a very spread out community.
Wow, I don't think I knew that the government, I knew obviously about the internment camps during World War II, but I don't think I knew that the government had encouraged Japanese Americans to assimilate, but doesn't surprise me, I suppose. So, but let's see, you kind of threw in there that you've got a new center. So let's talk a little bit about the center. It's a $10 million project, right? So, and where is it? You said it's in a diverse community. I don't think you said which community.
Yeah, so we're in the Budlong Woods and West Ridge neighborhood, 40th Ward at 5700 North Lincoln Avenue.
Okay, terrific.
It's a former bank building, and we purchased the building in December of 2022. And with the help of Metis Design, Anna Ninoyu and Chris Garospi, they brought their creativity to fully design this space to be 100% useful for everything that we're trying to do and have been doing. And so it's been just an exciting journey, and we're so thrilled to open it up to the larger community on Thursday.
On Thursday, wow,
Yes.
that's incredible, really exciting. And what kinds of things will you be able? I know you talked a little bit about your programming, but you'll be able. Are there anything special that you'll be able to do now that you have your own building?
Yes, absolutely. It allows us to greatly increase our clients for our adult day services. We have greater space to run concurrent programs for our youth and our preschool programs, and that will also, we have a demonstration kitchen for cooking classes and cultural and arts classes, and most notably, it provides this professional museum quality archival space. So what JAC has that has been community built is what we call the Legacy Center, which over time has become one of the largest Japanese American collections of artifacts, of valuables, about living history items, letters from families and others who have donated them to us. And we've been looking for a very long time for a forever home for that. Right. And so now we have that and can make that available to researchers and students, but also use it to advance curriculum and greater understanding.
That's terrific. Do you, the history of Japanese Americans in Chicago, but in the country, I think is fascinating, incredibly fascinating. Do you do programs every now and then to tell the story about the history? And if not, would you consider it? Because would be fascinated.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Japanese American community across the country every February, in recognition of the executive order signing of 9066, does a day of remembrance. And the community has been hosted by the Chicago History Museum in February on that anniversary. And we collectively, Japanese American Service Committee and other organizations, come together and do a day-long program at the,
that's good
the
to
facility.
know. I'll keep my eye out for it.
And also just check out our website at jasc-chicago.org. We have a full calendar of different types of programming. It's been a little bit dormant due to the renovation, but
it's coming back.
In 2025, it's just back to business.
And you have a big event, I know, on Saturday, your Winterfest. Is that what you said?
Our annual Holiday Delight, which will be at the new building. It's open to the public. Food and arts and culture and performers, a bazaar, a silent auction. It brings hundreds of people from Greater Chicago and together.
Well, that's really exciting. Thank you for your service to Chicago and to the Japanese American community here. And so excited for your new term and for your new building and for all you've done, Michael. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you both. I'll be right back with some final thoughts on the other side of a short break. Stay with us.
I'm Darius Hillman, inviting you to join me for the Chicago Noir, the news magazine that highlights and showcases the African American experience in the Windy City. Tune in each month on CAN TV Cable Channel 19 or stream live on cantv.org or on the CAN TV Plus app. Elevated conversation and storytelling. Experience the power of community television.
The holiday season often brings a whirlwind of activity, expectations, and stress. But it's essential to intentionally seek out moments of joy amid the hustle and bustle. Joy doesn't have to come from grand gestures. It can be found in small, meaningful experiences, a walk through festive lights, reconnecting with loved ones, or savoring a quiet cup of cocoa on a cold night. These little moments can anchor us and provide a sense of comfort and peace. It's also important to remember that joy is personal. For some, it might come from community traditions and celebrations. For others, it may be found in solitude, reflection, or creative expression. Letting go of perfectionism and allowing space for simplicity can help avoid holiday burnout. Equally valuable is spreading joy. Acts of kindness, volunteering, giving a thoughtful gift, or simply expressing gratitude can uplift others and in turn enhance our own sense of fulfillment. Studies show that both giving and receiving kindness release endorphins, the brain's feel-good chemicals, making joy a reciprocal experience. If the holidays are a challenging time, seeking support and finding comfort in small, joyful moments can offer hope. Whether through music, nature, or time spent with others, actively seeking joy reminds us that even in a busy season, there are always moments worth cherishing. That's our time. Thank you for tuning in to Chicago Newsroom 2.0. Until next time, be well and well informed.